everybody, welcome back to the next episode of Dr. V's Motivational Mondays, a video series on self-regulation and effective learning strategies where our goal is to learn how to learn, because after all, guys, learning should be fun. We should have fun while we're doing it. We should enjoy learning, and there are many ways that we can strengthen our ability to learn that will make it more fun. And one of those things that we're going to talk about today is how we can reduce the distractions around us while we're trying to complete our work. And really, when we talk about reducing the distractions, we know that in a sense, we're also talking about resisting the distractions. And that's where this myth of multitasking comes in. And that's what I want to start with today. We're going to start by understanding the myth of multitasking before we look at ways that we can reduce and resist the distractions around us. We all understand multitasking is the idea that we can do multiple things at the same time and be able to be effective and appropriate in that work. And that is just simply not true. In fact, 81% of students report doing multitasking as they're doing their homework, and many of them experience increased stress because of that, because they've put themselves down to such a condensed time frame and they're trying to fit so much in that they're not really giving themselves enough time to pay attention to any one task. The rest of the information on this chart is telling you what they're multitasking on, and that is their social media or watching streaming platforms such as YouTube or Netflix. What that does is it actually decreases the amount of time that we can be productive, because here's the facts. There's no such thing as multitasking. There is only such thing as task shifting or task switching. And when we switch between tasks, it actually takes some time for us to re-engage our brain in an effective way. And that's why you see all of the amount of time that we're trying to engage in multitasking is actually working against us. And by the time we're trying to do 5 projects in the scope of the same amount of time, we are really only being productive about 20% of the time, which is nuts if you think about it. This is what else we know is true, is that 2% of people can actually multitask and can do it effectively. So it's not something that exists for no one. But the rest of us really just shift between ideas in our heads and hope that we're going to be effective in the long run. And remember that multitasking decreases that productivity, as we saw previously, by more than 40%, which is the equivalent of missing like an entire night's sleep. So now that we understand why we are not good at multitasking, the myth of multitasking, and this idea that we can do multiple things, multiple distractions at the same time, let's talk about some simple strategies for you to be better at getting your work done and resisting the distractions. The first thing to do, guys, is to assume you're not an exception. Remember, 2% of people can multitask effectively. You're likely not one of them. And so don't assume you're an exception to the rule. Assume you are the rule and that you are not able to multitask, which brings us to our second tip: embrace single tasking, which is where you focus on one thing at a time. You give that increased effort, increased attention, and by the time you get done with it, you feel better because you finished something all the way to completion while you were not distracted and pulled away and losing productivity. I encourage you next to create a distraction-free zone. This kind of comes back to the tip we had about optimizing your study space. Create an environment where you can work effectively without all of the distractions that might bring you into multitasking. One of those things might be your phone. Guys, turn off your notifications. For me, I have created a setting that is my designated writing time where my notifications are significantly reduced because it helps me stay on task. I encourage you next to use the Pomodoro technique, which is the equal number of work sessions for 25 minutes, then a 5-minute break, and then you keep doing that repeatedly until you get closer to having your task done. Set very clear goals. Make sure your goals are measurable. This goes back to that idea of SMART goals from our very first episode of Dr. V's Motivational Monday, where having that very clear trajectory is one of the best ways to make sure you move in a consistent direction and that direction is forward. You should limit your digital devices, your other devices, your other things that can distract you. If you are working on your computer, do not have your phone out if you can help it. Take purposeful breaks. This really comes back to the idea of the Pomodoro technique, where you really need to make sure you're not trying to go hours and hours at a time because we're not productive that way. And last, you need to make sure you plan ahead. This is the best way to be productive. It comes back to that idea of clear goals, because with clear goals, we're able to join the resistance and to reduce our distractions. That is everything for this episode of Dr. V's Motivational Monday. Catch you next time.